An insane rumor about Aaron Rodgers being the Rams quarterback in 2025. Another rumor about Matthew Stafford. We're going to make some sense of this and break it all down. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramily, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do me a huge favor, join the party, getting close to 16,000 subscribers. So if you haven't yet, do me a huge favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, hit the like button, and drop your comments down below. Anything you got, all your takes on your Los Angeles Rams, I want to hear them. We're going to start featuring them on the show. We're at 15,932 subs at the moment, trying to get to 16K. So if you're doing a huge favor, subscribe to the channel. My name is Doug McCain. Friends call me D-Mac. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade, 24/7. Bleacher Report, Dodgers Nation. I also do NFL radio for Westwood One. Today I'm flying solo. The People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, will be back tomorrow. But we have a jam-packed show, and we have a show that might make you want to pull your hair out a little bit, but this is the latest, and this comes from Colin Cowherd. So I'm not so sure if you're a massive fan of The Herd with Colin Cowherd. I grew up listening to all the morning radio guys, Colin Cowherd, Jim Rome in the Jungle, Dan Patrick. And yes, a lot of the times when I listen to these dudes, it's like I'm arguing with them wherever I was at. I'm having debates with these guys from my car, from wherever I live, walking around town. That's kind of how I treat it. So the reason I point that out is I don't always agree with everything they say, even though I do listen. I am an everyday listener of guys like that. But Cowherd has shown that he has been pretty dialed in the past. He has connections with the Rams. Here's what he's saying about Matthew Stafford. He said, quote, "The Rams like Matthew Stafford, but they're tiring of the constant quarterback talk. His wife saying things publicly. They're not real happy with Cooper Kupp going public with something they try to keep quiet. They're kind of over Cooper Kupp, and with that, a little bit Matthew Stafford. They like him, but they don't want to restructure his deal and give him a big contract. The Rams like Matthew Stafford, but they don't want to give a big contract." So this would essentially mean, if what he's saying is true, that Matthew Stafford will inevitably be on another team, that they'll look to trade him. He won't be on the Los Angeles Rams anymore. And yes, the way the contract currently is structured, yes, he's under contract, but doesn't have a lot of guaranteed money. What they essentially did last season was they moved up the signing bonuses and the money towards the back end. They moved it to the front end. So it was basically on a one-year, $40 million deal. So both sides had the ability to move on if they wanted to. Now, where would Matthew Stafford go? Because I think that if what Cowherd says, if there's any truth to that whatsoever, and the Rams put those sirens out and they put those flares out, there would be teams lining up to discuss how you could get a quarterback like Matthew Stafford that in the last couple of seasons has gotten very close, even though he just turned 37, to getting his team deeper into the postseason. The last two postseason losses for the Rams in the playoffs were by a combined 4 points. So if you are the Rams and you're looking to move off of him, where would he go? Well, Cowherd went on to say, what the Rams want, I am told they want the Giants' first-round pick at number 3, so they probably want a first, a second, a first, a third, but you've got to pay Stafford if you're the Giants. You've got to give him a new deal. They'll probably get a first and a fourth, and let's just talk about that number 3 pick. The Rams want that number 3 pick in the draft because they're drafting way later. They want to take that pick, move down, and get more picks. Why? So they have extra picks next year when they have to move up and get a quarterback. So there is some truth to what he's saying. This is not a deep quarterback draft. The Rams ultimately, even if you do bring Stafford back on a 3-year contract extension, you do have to look for that quarterback of the future at some point, and most likely you're going to draft someone. Current options aren't the future of the organization. Stetson Bennett isn't that guy. Jimmy Garoppolo isn't that guy. And we know that this organization had a number 1 pick quarterback in Jared Goff and realized that even though he had some success and led his team to the Super Bowl, that wasn't going to be enough. So I think that one thing this Rams organization realizes is you win Super Bowls with elite quarterbacks, and you're going to have to find one at some point. Now, as far as the Giants are concerned, does he make sense for the Giants? I mean, he is Matthew Stafford. He's still, on his best days, one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the sport. But if you're the Giants, would you really be willing to give the number 3 pick for a 37-year-old quarterback that's dealt with injury issues, that was close to retiring a couple seasons ago? Even though Matthew Stafford is still, like I said, really good when he's on his game and he's healthy, that's a lot for a quarterback that has some questions about his future. And then I think the second thing, too, if you're the Giants, is Matthew Stafford the missing piece to a Super Bowl puzzle? I think the answer is 100% no. He isn't that. Would he be a great building block, a great foundational player towards that for the next couple seasons? Sure, he might, but it doesn't make a ton of sense. Now, as far as using that number 3 pick to get more assets in 2026, I think that makes sense. That's not outrageous, especially when you consider what we've seen from Les Snead and this organization over the last couple seasons and how well they've hit in the draft. They'll have to get a franchise quarterback at some point. 2026 could be the year, especially if you're looking to move off of Matthew Stafford and get that bridge quarterback along the way. The question is, who would that bridge quarterback be? Who would that veteran quarterback be that would take the Rams into the next era for maybe a year? Well, Colin Cowherd, he throws out Aaron Rodgers as a possibility for the Rams. Cowherd said, quote, "He needs a rehab. He's got a house in Malibu, West Coast guy. By the way, in a division with Geno Smith, Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy, Aaron Rodgers, his last 10 games last year, he was good. And remember that he was a third-tier coaching staff. He had that in New York. What he gets in McVay, an established offensive line, an excellent young defense. Remember, Matt LaFleur is the OC with Sean McVay. He's been in that system before, so Aaron Rodgers knows the system with the Rams. I believe Aaron is craving infrastructure, stability, a head coach he respects, organizational excellence." So, yeah, that last part is very true. Organizational excellence, stability. You have a coach in Matthew Stafford, a coach in Sean McVay that is, in my opinion, the most valuable coach in all of the National Football League, just because of his age, the way he built a culture, the hires that he makes, everything included. If you were going to start a franchise and pick a coach right now, I think Sean McVay is number 1. Now, as far as Aaron Rodgers goes, that's where it's a head scratcher. It's a head scratcher. And look, could Aaron Rodgers with a more stable organization be serviceable? I definitely think he could, but Aaron Rodgers hasn't been elite for a long time. Aaron Rodgers has not been the A-Rod, the belt. I mean, he has just not been that guy that you could look to lead a team to a Super Bowl, especially with this roster. Now, if they actually did move off of Stafford, would Rodgers be better than some of the guys that they could get? I think he could, for sure, but he's 41. He probably does not have a lot of Super Bowl winning football in him. And if I'm the Rams and you trade Stafford and you bring in Aaron Rodgers, I mean, what would you do with that first-round pick? Well, Colin Cowherd says that the Rams would target Arizona wide receiver Tetaroa McMillan, T-Mac, who is widely considered to be the best receiver in the class. He said, if the Rams do move down and get the Giants' number 1 pick, don't be surprised if they don't draft T-Mac, the Arizona wide receiver, to replace Cooper Kupp, who they're moving off of. He is easily the best receiver in the draft. This sounds crazy. The Matt Stafford of the Giants thing is real, I'm told. I'm told they like Matt Stafford, but he's old. Rams want inexpensive rental quarterback or 1 year. So I'm keeping receipts. All I'm saying is I'm definitely keeping receipts this offseason. And we are in rumor season. We're in BS season. So take it with a grain of salt, the size of the Rock of Gibraltar. But look, could the Rams want to move off of Matthew Stafford? Potentially. I mean, I think that there's a slight possibility of that. But to move off him and to get to Aaron Rodgers, I don't love that. And I'm going to tell you why. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. Post your job. LinkedIn's new feature can help you write your job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high quality hires. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. A special shout out to those everyday listeners out there watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. Cannot thank you enough. You guys are what make this show go. And if you haven't joined that Everyday Listeners Club, what are you waiting for? I've been posting new episodes the night before, so you have them all day. So be looking for those early mornings, those late nights. You'll see the drops on YouTube. You'll see it over on the pod. So it's going to be an exciting offseason. Lots of free agency stuff to get into. This team did not fare well last free agency. How will they fare this year? Cooper Kupp, will he be traded? Matthew Stafford will be on this team. How will they draft? So much to get into. We're going to have some player interviews as well. So stay locked on. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. Hit the like button. But here in our second segment, guys, I just want to say when it comes to Aaron Rodgers and a one-year deal with the Rams, it's a hard pass for me. It's a hard pass for me for the simple fact that, yes, he's not in a great system. Yes, he was with a bad organization. No one's claiming he wasn't. The Jets are one of the worst run teams in the National Football League, if not the worst run team. I mean, you look at Aaron Rodgers had his darkness retreat. The Jets have been like in a 30, 40-year darkness retreat, just being fans of that organization just because of how inept they've been. Now, Aaron Rodgers, you look at the career, you say, wow, 10 Pro Bowls, 4 MVPs, 4 All-Pros. You won a Super Bowl with the Packers. This is someone that you send to L.A., and maybe he'll be like LeBron and win one more title. It'll be one of those players that comes to L.A. and starts to flourish. You look at his numbers in 2024, though. 3,897 yards, 28 touchdowns, just 11 interceptions. Impressive on the surface. But you look deeper into it. 9 of his 17 starts, he had a negative EPA, expected points added. He threw for 300 yards last season, exactly one time. He was 26th in EPA per attempt and 30th in air yards per attempt. So even if you're not into advanced football analytics, they tell you that he's not great. He's not terrible, but he's not great. He is an average to a slightly above average NFL quarterback at this stage of his career. And let's not forget, he was the guy that last season did not like Salah and had him fired. And after that, the Jets completely crumbled. So Sure, he would not have that same say with the Rams because we know that the Rams would never allow anyone, quite frankly, any player. I don't care if you're Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. I don't care who you are. No one could get this organization to oust Sean McVay. So the organizational stability is clearly there. It's a strong organization with a strong head coach and leadership and a culture that has been built long before Aaron Rodgers would have arrived. But that does not mean that it wouldn't impact the other teammates. That does not mean that it wouldn't impact the young players on this roster. I mean, just think about the Hard Knocks last year. Just think about the Aaron Rodgers experience heading into the season. It was all warm and fuzzy feelings. The young guys and Garrett Wilson, him, look like, oh, they have some connection. There's a rumor that Garrett Wilson would have forced a trade if they brought back Aaron Rodgers. That tells you a lot about the dude and the impact that he has on his teammates. I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he's a quirky guy, an eccentric guy, big personality, big opinions. And sure, that could work for a lot of franchises, but even if you don't get to that level, right? Even if you don't get to that part of the equation where you're dealing with the intangibles of what Aaron Rodgers might bring at this stage of his career, and you could look at it, hey man, if everywhere you go stinks, maybe you're the one that stinks, and maybe you're the problem. Without even getting there, it's why would I want a 1 year even if the Rams traded away Matthew Stafford, they're clearly looking for the future for sure. And if you're getting a 1 year rental with Aaron Rodgers, all right, fine. But why would you blow up a team essentially that has hit on guys? A couple years from now, we don't know how Puka Nacua is going to look. We don't know how he's going to develop with another quarterback. This defense getting better and better, continuing to emerge. Kobe Turner, Byron Young. You just drafted the Defensive Player of the Year as a rookie in Jared Verse, Braden Fisk. You're really not that many pieces away from being a legitimate Super Bowl contender. They were 14 yards from hosting an NFC Championship game at home against a rookie quarterback and probably going to the Super Bowl. So it doesn't make sense to me. It really, really doesn't. And if the Rams truly feel in their heart of hearts that they can't win another Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford, then fine. They know things. They have access to information that even the most plugged in people don't. Then that's one thing. But I just find it hard to believe that they would move off of Matthew Stafford knowing that he still can get this team to the promised land. I truly believe that next season, there is a universe where the Rams can win the Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford as their quarterback. There's just not a lot of dudes out there that can get it done. I mean, do they look at, the last pass, his pass sailed over Puka Nacua. Was that because of his ribs? Is that because of an injury? Are they sick of Kelly Stafford putting stuff out about the Rams? I mean, if they probably don't love it for sure, but is it enough for them to look to move off a guy and basically start a completely new chapter of Rams football? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. I think that what makes sense for the present and the near future is still Matthew Stafford being with the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, you can get draft picks, and those draft picks can not work out for you. They can be busts, right? I mean, draft picks are lottery picks. That's all they are. They're scratch-offs. You do not know what it's going to come of them. I mean, thankfully, the Rams have had success in recent years, but you just don't know. So as for me, one, don't trade Stafford, get a new deal done. And two, even if you do, I don't think that you bring in Aaron Rodgers and put yourself in a position to win a Super Bowl. And this organization is really Super Bowl or bust at this point, as far as what they consider to be a successful season. So it's a hard pass, in the words of Randy Jackson, for Aaron Rodgers. That's a no for me, dog. It just would. I mean, even if you trade for Rodgers, you probably would win the press conference. You might win social media. You'd see that smile. You would see Sean McVay be excited about it. The year would start, and then just things would just not go as planned. And that's just because of Father of Time being undefeated to a 41-year-old quarterback. And look, Aaron Rodgers, he just hasn't had that Super Bowl winning juice for a long, long time. And that's what this organization is all about. At least that is what we thought, right? So I don't love the idea of Aaron Rodgers, and I hate the idea of trading Matthew Stafford. But coming up next, we're going to continue to talk about it, and that's coming up next on Locked on Rams. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth-quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, I never feel like I'm missing my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And welcome back to Locked on Rams. Thank you for making Locked on Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked on Rams, part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day. Okay, speaking of trades, how about the trade that the Lakers made getting Luka Doncic from the Dallas Mavericks? Well, I was very excited about this. Puka Nacua, who's been nicknamed Puka Doncic, got to meet Luka Doncic. It was really cool. Puka was in the building for Luka's first game as a Laker. The Lakers destroyed the Jazz 132-113. Luka had 14 points, but it was about after the game, Puka met up with Doncic. They swapped jerseys. So now Luka Doncic has a Rams jersey, which is really, really cool. And it was hilarious. Puka Nacua met LeBron. He said he never felt more small in his life. And it was really exciting to see. I mean, Puka Nacua, he's not small, but Luka Doncic is 6'6", 6'7". LeBron's a big dude. But I think it's cool to see Puka Nacua kind of be almost that new face of the Rams organization. That's kind of my big takeaway here is he's the guy that has that Pro Bowl, that all-pro level potential for the next couple of seasons. I mean, Kobe Turner, Jared Verse, they have some other guys certainly that are in the mix as well, but Puka Nacua kind of has that crossover appeal. He's a popular player. He's a Jordan Brand athlete, and I think that it's really interesting that Puka Nacua, first of all, he's already working out with Cooper Kupp, and he already threw up in his lawn, right? So he's still working out with Cooper Kupp this offseason. He has a great relationship with Matthew Stafford, but I do wonder about how he would feel about all of this and what his thoughts are on all these rumors that are swirling and how he's kind of able to stay sane through a lot of these. But I think the good thing about all of this is he's out there enjoying his offseason, representing the Rams very well. He did have some comments just a little bit. He interesting. He actually said that he would love to have Kyle Hamilton on the Rams, which is pretty interesting. He was doing an interview with Mina Kimes, Puka Nacua, and he said, hey, if you're ready to come to L.A. where it's all sunny all the time, we'll be waiting for you. He's kind of joking a little bit. So he is doing some recruiting, representing the Rams well, got to meet Luka Doncic, so it is Puka Doncic from here on out, and that nickname definitely hits harder these days. But I think the big takeaway there is Puka's kind of the face of this organization. He really is kind of moving forward, and I think that he's someone that you build around, but I think for a player that has dealt with some injury issues, I think taking full advantage of his prime years will have a lot to do with the decision they make with Matthew Stafford. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked on Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked on Rams house.